No. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Monday Night Team Call. My name is Kristen Graffa. Super excited to dive into this topic with you guys and share tonight. The topic we are going into is how to move past the planning phase. So, I actually have a question for you guys. Drop it in the comments, as much detail as you'd like. Has anybody ever planned and executed an event before? So, this could be your wedding, a birthday party, it could even be gifts for Christmas or a birthday. So, have you ever thought about it, went out, did all the things, did all the details, and then executed it, got to the finish line? Lots of yeses, which is what I anticipated. Awesome. So we could basically end the call because you all just proved that you could do this. This is not something out of anybody's limitation or range. This is not a special talent. This does not require any extra hours in the day. This just literally requires some intentionality and just maybe a few things that maybe you have never tried before, that hopefully after at the end of this call you'll say, I'm going to give that one a try. And if you are someone on this call who is in action consistently, that's amazing. But disclaimer, as you grow your team, you will come across those who will struggle in this area, which is why I hope this call will be a great tool for you to use in the future as well. So, with that being said, now that you have all put in writing that you have indeed thought about something and executed it, proving my point that we all could move past the planning phase, why do we struggle so much with this when it comes to our business? Why is this such a mental block for us to move out of planning and into action? Because I believe that each and every one of you on this call tonight has full intention of getting on stage, full intention of reaching the goals that you have set for yourselves monthly, daily, weekly. I know the intent is there, and none of you would be on this call. But the fact that you are here proves that you have this intention, and yet there is something that happens between the intent and the execution. And sometimes we could stay trapped in this cycle. And that's why this call I felt was important to try and help push us out. So, what is one thing we do with customers when we are talking to them? We want to get to the root of the issue. Like, what is the root problem? Everybody comes with, like, oh, I want more energy, or oh, I want to lose weight. But the root issue is usually the underlying factor that we have to pay attention to and be mindful of and tackle so that we match them to the right products and they get the best result, right? So I don't want to spend too much time in the root issues here, because we could do a whole call just on the root issue of why we're stuck trapped in that middle space of just planning it out and having the intention, but not making our feet match our mouth. But I do want to touch on a couple of points that if you do resonate with, it's just good to kind of hone in on it and say, okay, that one was me. I need to like kind of direct my attention there, but let's not stay there. Let's not stay thinking about it for too long. The point of this call is to learn how to keep it moving once we got it. So the number one thing I feel in thinking about this call that really inhibits people from getting into action after they've had a plan and after they have the desire and the intention is they feel really insecure about their decision making. Like, they don't feel like their decision, and this could go for a range of things. They don't feel like their post is going to be good. They don't feel like their graphic is going to be good. They don't feel like they're just not confident in their decision to do it, to just actually do it. So here's another little question for those of us who have been married. Did any of us try on our wedding dress and think about every single guest's opinion before we purchased it? No, we don't do that. We only think about how we feel about it in that moment, and we go for it. We are confident in that decision. This does not negate the fact that there will still be people who don't like your dress, who didn't like your venue, who didn't like what your flowers, your flower arrangements were. And yet we were confident in that decision for our day. And so that we went ahead and we made those decisions and executed it. And To us, it was beautiful and great, right? So, again, going back to our business, if we don't feel confident in our decision, it starts bleeding into all these other fears. We start feeling the fear of judgment and the fear of rejection and the fear of imperfection, and people are going to criticize us. Guess what? All of those things are still happening with all the decisions you have made in your life. The name you chose for your baby. I'm sure not everybody thinks it's the greatest name on earth. You do. Your wedding day, all these major things. We were capable of making these grand decisions, not caring about what anybody else thought about it. So, why put so much pressure when it comes to this business? So, feel confident in your decisions. Know that you are here with the intention of growing and getting on the stage and doing whatever your why is for you and your family. And just understand that, like Brittany Howard said, you could be the ripest, most perfect peach in the cart, and somebody's still not going to like a peach. Okay. But I really feel like starting with the insecurity of the decision making just really trickles down into, then, like I said, the fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of imperfection, and then sometimes leading into straight up avoidance, because then it's just not fun. We had no issue planning those big events and milestones in our life because it's fun, because we've been dreaming about it, because it's what we want. Dream of your wedding day or dream of your baby's name or all the things. Like, it's exciting, it's fun. Somewhere along the way, if you are trapped in the cycle of planning, 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 and not actually doing, it stopped being fun. It started getting like maybe work. And so then it just starts triggering things in your brain to just want to avoid the whole thing. That's when we start coming up with excuses like, I just don't have time. I don't have the time. I'm just too busy. Too much is going on. I just can't do it. I don't have people. Nobody cares. Nobody's listening. All those things start trickling into our head because the fun was taken out. And that's a shame. And that should never happen. So I'm hoping that once we get into the action steps of this call, that the fun could start getting back into it and we could get a little bit more intentional. Another root cause could be control, which is such like an ugly word. But for us perfectionists, those who like things like all, T's crossed and I's dotted, we that is a tactic of control. But guess what, guys? Doing nothing is also control because it's a choice. You're choosing nothing because then there's no risk. You won't fail, but you won't succeed. It's just nothing. And that goes hand in hand with being in plan mode constantly, because planning is a really great excuse, right? We could just be like, well, we're thinking about it. I'm thinking about it. So, like, when you're given a task, let's put this into an example of come up with your dream team list, share it with me. Or, you know, shoot 50 cold messages out, screenshot them, you know, let's take a look. Let's like swap, like, let's do this. And you're like, yeah, great. And then like the week passes and the days pass and like nothing ever happened. Oh, yeah, I'm still making the list. Oh, I'm still working on, I didn't get to 50 yet. I'm still working on it. See how planning could become an excuse that we use to hide behind because it's easy and it's like it's acceptable. Like it's an acceptable excuse. You're planning, right? So moving on, I love to use this example. I've used this a ton because, like I said, as you grow your business, you will come into contact with people who are just habitual learners. They just want to keep learning, but they don't want to graduate. They want to plan and plan and vision cast, but they don't want to go get into action to succeed those visions, right? So I love to use Noah. If anybody is familiar with the Bible, Noah's Ark, God inspired Noah to build the ark, right? He gave him this task. Now, what is going to happen if Noah is just planning the ark? If he never goes out, cuts down the trees he needs, gets into action, starts building, because this was a big ark. We're talking two of every kind, his family, like this. And God even gave him the dimensions and like all the things, like, here you go. This is what I need you to do. If he just like got stuck in planning mode, like that rain is going to come and he he was left out. Like that was not going to be good. Okay. That wouldn't have been good for any of us either. So super important to get out of there and move. So let's dive into action now that we've covered all of that. So number one action is inspiration. When you're inspired, do it. When you feel prompted, do it. They talk about this in Atomic Habits. So good. Um, don't sit and wait. We all have that little voice. Even the book we're doing right now, Worthy in book club, she talks about that moment in school when you're like knowing the answer, but you hesitate and you don't raise your hand. When you feel inspired, that is as unique as DNA. God gave each and every one of us a very specific inner voice telling us, prompting us what to do. Inspiration is creativity. And sometimes too much planning snuffs out our creativity and we become kind of robotic in a way. And creativity makes us relatable and it makes us reach more people. And so, one thing I have learned over the course of this business is that when something gets impressed on me to do, I seize it. I just do it. Even if it's not a convenient moment, just do it. I'm telling you, it's going to feel uncomfortable. You're going to be like, nah, I'm not doing that. But that still small voice in your head, those of us who are Christ followers, the Holy Spirit is like, you need to say that. You need to call that person. You need to do this. And we're like sitting there like panicking, like, can you like pass that to somebody else? No, do it because it is uniquely given to you. That inspiration is uniquely given to you. I'm not going to be inspired the way Tova is inspired or the way Megan's inspired. So certainly act if you feel inspired to. If a post comes on you, just put it up. Who cares if you posted already that day? Have you ever gotten one email only from $1 million company? No, they email you all day long. It's okay to post more than once if you feel inspired or moved to do so. The second one is actually from James Clear, chapter 14 of Atomic Habits. Great chapter to go revisit. And if you haven't read this book, totally do so. Basically, he talks about a really extreme form of like what psychologists came up with called the commitment device. And he talks about Victor Hugo, who was a publisher. I'm not a publisher, an author. I apologize. But his publisher was kind of on him for an entire year. Like, yo, where's your book? Like, let's go. It's a year. Where's your book? Where's your book? And he filled his time doing lots of busy work, but not actual work. And basically, it got down to like, I'm giving you 6 months. He gave him the deadline. He set the date, he set the time. It's got to be done. So, what does Victor Hugo do? He locks himself in a room and eliminates all his clothing from the room. Like, literally gets rid of it, leaves himself with nothing but a shawl. So, he has no choice but to get to work. He finishes the book early, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. He goes on to set all of these examples of athletes who do this when they have weigh-ins and they leave their wallet home so they're not even distracted to go and get any food outside so they make their way in. He kind of goes through all of these different scenarios of extreme behavior or commitment devices where you set a day and a time, you commit and you eliminate any potential distraction to get it done. So I pose this to you. What is something that you find yourself doing that's time sucking away from getting your vision done or getting a step closer to that goal? Maybe it's scrolling, maybe it's, doing all that busy work that you look like you're doing a lot of things, but in your heart you're not really doing anything productive. We've all been there, like myself included, 1,000 times. So that is something to keep in mind. And again, chapter 14 of Atomic Habits, great chapter to kind of refresh on in going back to this point. Number 3 of action steps is, oh my gosh, this is my favorite one because this is the most personal one to me. I am literally going to hand you a $40,000 culinary education right now in 2 minutes. Not even. So, in culinary school, as a chef, for those of you who don't know, I went through that and worked in the restaurant for years and years and years. We have a to-do list, not a tomorrow list. There is no tomorrow. The to-do list happens, has to happen, because guess what? The doors are going to open, the customers are going to come in, and it is completely unacceptable to not have that list accomplished and ready to go. Period. There is nobody cares. They don't care. They don't want the excuse. They don't care if your finger is half chopped off. Your station needs to be like ready to go. And what makes this different than typical to-do lists that we form is there is no priority. No priority. Throw the priority out the window. I know that's not common practice in life, but I am telling you, it is a game changer. So when you make a to-do list, I don't care if there's 2 things on it, if there's 12 things on it, nothing outweighs anything else. It has to get done because, like I said, when you are in a kitchen setting and the doors are going to open, the garnish is just as important as the meat being prepped, as the sauce is being done, as the sides being ready to go. You can't, 80% of success in a kitchen is your prep. You cannot go into service not prepared. So that means chopping the parsley is just as important as butchering your meat. So when you make your personal to-do list for your business and for your life, whatever you put down, it has to get done. That you have 24 hours in the day, doesn't matter what time of the day it happens, it just needs to happen. What this will do for you is so much more than just like, oh, I got it done. It's going to build trust with yourself that you can accomplish it. It's going to boost your confidence in your decision making that you could decide to do something and be able to execute it. And you will see those small steps starting to build in your business and even in your life. Your life will become a little more organized, even though it seems maybe disorganized in a way that you're throwing out priorities. Because what happens with priorities, guys? We make the list, everything at the top gets done because that's the priority, and everything that we have at the bottom gets pushed to tomorrow, and then the next day, and then the next day. And then before you know it, it's just not happening. So when you make the list, and again, doesn't matter how big or small, make sure that you set out to accomplish the task, even if it's one thing. One thing, start small. One thing, when you get it checked off, you're going to feel so good. And just think about me in the kitchen, dying in front of 500-degree ovens, getting screamed at by a chef that everything needs to get done. And it'll just, I don't know, motivate you to just go ahead and do that. Okay, I love that one because that is actually something I personally use all the time. So if I wake up in the morning and I say I am going to do dot dot dot, it it's happening. That's it. Period. So to-do list, not tomorrow list. Lastly is let go of the perfect and embrace the good enough. So here is where grace comes in, because we use grace like sometimes like an unlimited ATM card. Like we're just going to give ourselves so much grace that sometimes we don't do nothing. Like nothing's happening. And I've been trapped here too. Like I'm just going to like, I'm a busy mom. I have a lot going on. It's okay that I didn't get to that, but that could become a negative habit to roll into when we're just giving ourselves an abundance of grace. But here is where the grace can come in, is that it doesn't have to be perfect. We can embrace it's good enough. It's good enough. And that doesn't mean mediocrity. That just means it got done. The task got done. Maybe my picture wasn't the best. Maybe I wasn't grammatically correct on my post. Maybe there was a couple of typos. There usually are. Maybe, I stumbled in my live. Maybe my event, I didn't get to, talk to that many people, or I wasn't, like it wasn't as great as it could have been, but I did it. I showed up because practicing is how you trump the planning. Get into practice and label it that. I'm practicing. That's how you'll give yourself the grace of it not being perfect. There is no major athlete, no singer, no actress, no one who is uber successful in their life that does not practice. And the only way you get really good and really confident in your decision making and really just being able to do it and not let it throw you off completely is by doing that. Just practicing, letting go of the perfection of it, and just putting yourself in that training mode. It will also develop you to be a super humble leader. Okay. I had to learn this real hard for real long. Okay. It will help you be really humble. It will help you be able to teach them, because like John Maxwell says, the best teaching is through the failures. And failure doesn't have to be this epic letdown. Failure could, for you or for me, could feel like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, like, I'm sorry, but my memories are popping up right now of old posts I did. And I'm literally like, no, I did not put that video up. Or like, no, I did not get on there and say that. I'm probably going to look back on this call in a year from now and be like, what in the world? But it's practice, so that as I keep doing it, it won't be so scary. You'll gain the confidence and you'll become an incredible leader. And I just love this quote. And please, forgive me, I don't know who said it, but it's, perfect is the enemy of good, but worse the enemy of done. And I just loved that, because how true. Listen, perfection, it's not reality. Um, it's usually a filter. And the bottom line is people will relate to the real. Okay. I got on my post once and literally had no intention, but literally started crying about a situation with my daughter. And I really contemplated, I'm like, am I really going to post this right now? This is like super vulnerable. And you know what? I did. And I developed more relationships with people over a post like that than I ever did over a perfect selfie with the perfect words, with the perfect. So, whatever it is that you're stuck in right now, I really hope that you take away one action step rather, to just move out of it. Whether it's the to-do list, not the tomorrow list, the throw the perfection out, give yourself some grace. It's good enough, but don't use it as an unlimited ATM card. Or going back to strike while the iron's hot, so to speak, or use that impulse, use what God is whispering into you and just do it, even if it's super scary. I promise you won't die. And also going back to Atomic Habits, that chapter is just so good. And sometimes we need to really just set aside the distraction, set ourselves a time and a date of execution, like we did our wedding or big events, and just head on and do it. So that's all I have for you guys tonight. I hope you took something away, and I will see you guys on Pink Power.